Greetings, guys. I hope that you guys are good today. So today we're going to be talking about checking your surroundings before trading every single day. This aspect of trading is very much important because it gives you a bigger picture in terms of what exactly it is that's going on in the market. So what I normally do every day before starting my trading day is I head on over to this particular website, which is CNBC, as you can see it. So what I normally do is I would head on to the US section, as I usually trade the US indices mostly, more than the other ones, and then I would look at the headlines that we have, just to check my surroundings. For example, we have over here this headline which says Twitter board adopts poison pill after Musk's 43 billion bid to buy company. This is very much important as it affects Twitter, and as most of us know, Twitter sits under the umbrella of Nasdaq, as Nasdaq carries the 100 top tech companies within the USA. So it's very much important to understand what exactly is going on in regards to Twitter, so that you can make informed trading decisions, right? So let's move on to the next headline. Let's go. So here's the next headline. It says explosions reported in Kiev and Lviv. Russia says it has struck a military plant in the capital. As you know, this has to do with the war between Ukraine and Russia. However, it doesn't only affect Ukraine and Russia. It also affects um, the European Union as well as the West, indirectly, that is, in my humble opinion. Let's move on to the next headline. It says here Shanghai reports more COVID cases as China imposes new lockdowns. As you know, this would affect mostly the Hong Kong 50 as well as the Hong Kong 33, in addition to the Chinese Indus, right? So it's very much important to understand exactly what's going on within China if you are trading in those indices. Okay, let's keep going further. So guys, you don't have to spend the whole day reading all these articles. Just read the ones that are topical and that mostly relate to the instruments that you trade, right? So another very good website that I normally have a look at every morning is Forex Live. This is a very good website. They're quite fast in terms of updating us with what's going on within the various markets. For example, the first um, headline here says what key events and economic releases are on the schedule next week. This is very important. This is very important, guys. You need to be aware in terms of what's going on in the various markets so that we can make proper buying and selling decisions. The next one says the earnings season heads into its second week. What are the key releases scheduled? As you guys know, earnings season started last week. We saw some big banks such as Wells Fargo and Goldman Sachs, as well as Citigroup, releasing their earnings for, I think, the first quarter of 2022. So it's very much important to know what's going on before actually making those trades. Let's move on to the next headline. It says here Macron sees winning France's presidential election runoff with 56% of the vote versus Le Pen. So this is the French election. It'll mostly affect the French currency as well as the French index, which is the CAC 40, if I'm not mistaken. So if you trade the CAC 40, you need to be aware in terms of what's going on within these elections so that your trades are in line with what's going on in the bigger picture. Let's move right along. The next headline says USD JPY trades to highest level since May 2002. near 20-year highs for the pair. As many of you guys know, USD JPY has an effect on the major indices that we trade, such as S&P 500, Nasdaq 100, US 30, which is the Dow Jones, DAX 40, and so forth, right? So it's very much important to know what's going on within this particular currency pair, which is USD JPY. There is a relationship between this pair and the indices that I spoke about. Let's move right along. Here we have another headline that says US industrial production for March rises by 0.9%. This is 0.4% estimate. This will, in my opinion, mostly affect the US 30, which is Dow Jones, as it mostly has companies that are industrial, that are listed on the index, in my humble opinion, right? So this is what I do every day, guys. I just go through the headlines to see if what's being said in the headlines affects the instruments that I trade on a day-to-day basis, and I adjust my analysis accordingly sometimes, and sometimes depending on how strong the news are, I would stay away from the market and wait for better trading conditions, right? Another thing that I do is I look at the economic calendar, right? So the economic calendar gives us a breakdown in terms of the news releases that are released for each and every country, and these news releases mostly affect the indices of those countries, right? For example, let me just scroll up to see what's going on here. Let's see. So on the 18th, of April, we have GDP growth rate year on year, quarter one economic news, and this affects China. This is very important. The news will come out at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then on the 20th, we have core inflation rate year on year news for Canada, as well as inflation rate year on year for March for the same country, which is Canada, at 2, right? And then the next news says inflation rate year on year on, I think this is Australia or New Zealand, I'm not sure, but the news will come out at quarter to 1 o'clock in the morning. The next news is core inflation rate year on year. I think this is Euro, and the news come out at 11 o'clock. So this will affect the European indices, such as your stock 60, such as your DAX 40, which is the German one. I think those other indices that it'll affect. And then we have inflation rate year on year for March coming out at 1:30 in the morning, and this would affect Japan and the Nikkei 225 index, right? So guys, this is what I do on a day-to-day basis. You need to have a big picture in terms of what's going on in the market. We don't just do technical analysis and just trade based on that. We need to put all the components together so that we can make proper informed buying and selling decisions, right? And as we all know, the markets since the year started have been very, very, very volatile. I mean, when 2022 started, we were dealing with the earnings that came out, which added some volatility to the market. And as we were about to head out of the earnings season, the situation between Russia and Ukraine started, which made the markets even worse in terms of volatility. So, starting your morning off with checking your background will help your trading as well, right? That's it for today's video, guys. Thank you for watching, and remember to like the video, and peace.